I will hit the pause recording. We are already recording, is that correct?
Yes, I just started
Yes, thank
recording.
you, Candace. Okay, well, welcome, Linda, Coach Cobb, and I will invite you to help us get started in this conversation about engaging virtual teams.
Okay, I am delighted to be here, and I just want to say welcome to everybody. You can't see me, I took my audio off, so I make sure I have my notes here and I'm real clear with all of you. I will be back, so toward the end, so we can engage a little more person to person. But right now you can't see me, but again, I'm Linda Cobb. I really appreciate your time. I'm glad you took the time to join us today. I say us because I will tell you that this short presentation was very much a group effort with the Lead Brevard team, as well as your input. So thank you so much for that. These are strange times that require all of us to adapt, and we want to be responsive to your needs. Keep in mind that during uncertain times, the tendency is to fall back onto our fears and amplify them. The way your mind works is that it's like a computer. You put a thought in there, it searches around, finds one to match it, and that's how we make thoughts bigger. So fears can get really out of hand during this time. But history has shown us that the best leaders, organizations, and innovations have risen from times of crisis. And as leaders, that's a real critical thing to keep in mind. So now's the time to really step back and develop your strategy for the next 1 to 3 months. It's kind of hard to project a lot longer than that. And set clear intentions. In fact, the most important thing you can do is to be very intentional in your actions. So I'm going to share a process today for conducting virtual team meetings that will actually engage your team members. But before each meeting you hold, there are some things that you must always do. So take a minute or two before you do any meeting and just relax, maybe do some stretches, some deep belly breathing, something. Get yourself really calm and centered, because keep in mind that it's your energy that will help your team members feel confident and clear about what they're to do or not. So if you're scattered or feeling anxious, then they will pick that up. Or if you're racing through content or something, you'll create anxiousness in others, and that's the last thing they want to do. We, as humans, we're the most productive when we're clear about what we're supposed to do and we feel good. When we feel anxious, everything kind of shuts down and we're not able to produce much at all, really. So again, if you're anxious or racing through your content, just take a little check before you even start your meeting. Check yourself in the mirror. Do you look professional? Are your surroundings orderly? Or does it look like you work in total chaos? Believe me, your team will notice, so pay attention to those things. Next, really think about each person on your team. In fact, right now, I'd like you to take out a sheet of paper, if you have one handy, and divide it into 3 vertical columns. List the people on your team in the first column. So take a minute right now and just do that real quick, just so you get the hang of this. The people that you would be inviting to a meeting. Or if you want to even number them and go back later, that's fine. But make sure you know who you're inviting on that team. In the second column, write down what might be going on for each of those people. This will also kind of gauge what you actually know about your team members. It might be things like kids at home, financial worries, or no space for a home office. And then in the last column, write down what each person might need most from you. Maybe it's reassurance about their job. or clear direction or appreciation. I would put a big star by that one. And finally, review what you wrote down and decide, based on what you wrote down, what's the most important thing you can focus on for your next virtual meeting. And then write down a clear intention for that meeting for yourself, just at the bottom. You can change it later, but this is just so you get clear and you align your energy toward one intention. So for example, maybe I would write down, we will meet virtually to decide the best course of action for XYZ client. Or we will meet to feel more connected to each other. Just write your intention at the bottom of the page. So this, that's important so that you feel clear and confident before you ever start the meeting. Because remember, if you're leading others, your energy matters. It's important that you make space in your mind for who the people are who are going to be joining you and what their concerns might be. So that's a really important step at the beginning. Next slide, please. So here are the broad reasons to hold meetings. Remember that people follow leaders who are clear about where they're going. So it's crucial that you clearly convey the purpose of your meeting and, if you can, the outcomes that you expect to achieve prior to your meeting. Send that out so that people can be thinking about it ahead of time. That will alert everyone to be thinking about your purpose, and it'll help them to prepare to participate. I've asked Kristen Klein to share a poll with you. So I'd like you to see this poll now and just think about the folks that you're going to invite to a meeting. And what's the primary purpose of your next virtual meeting? Do you want to educate them or influence their decision-making in some way? Do you want to actually make a decision about something? Do you need to solve a problem? Or is the purpose to strengthen relationships? So as you look at your list of people and you look at what they might need most from you and what's going on with them, and then you balance that with what the results you need to deliver for your workplace. What's the most important thing to focus on at this point for your next virtual meeting? So go ahead and select one of those, your primary purpose for your next virtual meeting. And then press submit at the bottom of this poll. And the great thing about these polls, it gives us results right away. I love this. Wow, okay. So you've got several things that are close contenders. By a small margin, it looks like strengthening relationships is in first place here as the primary reason. But you've got other reasons too that are, very close. Educating others is a close second. Making decisions, solving problems. And you may find that you could do all of these things probably in a meeting. My suggestion is you pick one and focus on that. And if you need to hold meetings closer together, which in these virtual times is a good idea, shorter meetings held more often will accomplish more. So once you've decided the purpose of your meeting, identify the outcomes that will demonstrate that you've achieved your purpose. So how will you know if relationships are getting strengthened? That's something you can address at the end of your meeting with a suggestion. So it sounds like you have reasons to hold meetings really for all of these things, all of these 4 reasons. So the main thing here is just pick one and focus on that and let people know, frame, as you invite people to your meeting, frame that purpose with what you want to achieve from that meeting ahead of time so people can be thinking about it. Excellent. Okay. Next slide, please. So regardless of the purpose of your meeting, purpose, okay. So regardless of the purpose of your meeting, you can use these rules to develop every meeting you do. So first, within the first 60 seconds, open your meeting with a meaningful statistic, anecdote, or analogy, or story, or something that helps the people in the meeting feel what you're going to focus on. We call that empathetic understanding, because people can't really engage with something until they've kind of felt the problem or aligned with it emotionally. So you might share a shocking or provocative statistic, like where your company stands relative to a competitor, to evoke a sense of our company being behind or ahead, by the way. Either one will evoke something. That's the beauty of statistics, if you use them right. It makes us feel like trying harder, or makes us feel really good that we surpassed somebody. It's a measurement tool that tells a story, basically. Or you could share an anecdote about a frustrated customer who quit buying from your company because you didn't price match, or they didn't get any customer support. Or you could engage their emotions by making an analogy to whales or something who feed more effectively when they work together to encircle fish, and then they take turns feeding. That's a good team building analogy, by the way. So no matter which tactic you use, your goal is to make sure that the group empathetically understands the problem or opportunity before you try to solve it. So this is once again where you need to think about your people. Think about who they are and what they dominantly focus upon. People in the healthcare arena typically focus on people. People in high-tech industries often focus on data. So think about your people and think about what would be the most effective way for you to engage them in helping them feel a problem in the first 60 seconds of your meeting. So Kristen, let's put that poll up here, and let's just find out which you would choose. There we go. So which of the following are your team members most likely to respond to? A statistic, an anecdote, so maybe a real situation that happened, an analogy, which is a story about something unrelated, but it is related, or a combination of several of those things. And let's see what the results are for that. So based on your people. Aha, okay. Okay, fair enough. So if you use a combination, I'm going to suggest that you don't combine more than 2 things, because You don't want to confuse people. Sometimes when people engage emotionally with a story and you share another story or anecdote, they lose the engagement they had with the first story. So just use them sparingly and don't use more than 2. And just make sure they're related to the purpose of your meeting. Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to go down the rest of these rules. The second rule is designed to make folks feel a shared responsibility to participate. So don't begin with, I want this to be a conversation, not a presentation, so I need you all to be involved. That just doesn't work. Instead, use rule number 3, the nowhere to hide rule, to build in things that people can respond to. In fact, we're doing that today by polling you during each slide. Just gives you something to respond to. You can also assign people, depending on the platform you're using for your meeting, you can also assign people to pairs or groups of 2 or 3 maximum, and give them a way to communicate with each other. So if you're using a platform that has a messaging platform or breakouts, use them. Give folks a very limited time frame and ask the smaller groups to report in, say, 2 minutes. An example is, with your partner, take 2 minutes to identify a new opportunity or something we could do to regain a lost customer, or how we could expand a deal we recently made. Make use of polls and chat rooms. They're also a good way to show shared interaction. It shows people that others are responding too, and that helps engagement. Number 4 simply means use PowerPoints very sparingly. Don't bore people and don't put a bunch of text up there. It's boring. And people will disengage and go do something else. Happens all the time. For example, if you're doing a 15-minute meeting, use 1 to 2 brief slides only, and only if they're pertinent to the purpose of your meeting. Number 5 is the 5-minute rule. Simply means that you should never go longer than 5 minutes without giving the group another problem to solve or something to respond to. 2 to 3 well-defined and meaningful group activities is enough for a 20-minute meeting. So keep that rule in mind. It keeps it moving forward and keeps people engaged. Okay, next slide. Okay, keep in mind that as leaders, you direct energy, and that human energy only becomes action when it's directed by thought. So while it may seem like you're supposed to manage behavior, the truth of the matter is that you manage thoughts. So that's why it's particularly important right now to help people understand that this can be a time of great opportunity. Things will be different in all likelihood, but they can be better. So get them thinking away from fears and into possibilities. And you, above all, as the leader, must model that and look hopeful and energetic. So all of this information is from an article I got from the Harvard Business Review. I have sent that article to the Leadership Essentials team, and they will be disseminating that, so you'll have all the content of that article. So the first thing, so I want to also give you some stress management tools. If you use this process, the best way to decrease stress is to have a plan. So the idea with this process is that you're not just going to slap together a meeting and pretend like it's the same as meeting in person. It's not. People can blank out their screens. They can go do other things. They can, they can appear to be present when they're not. So it's particularly challenging as a leader to engage people in this environment. But having a plan also reduces your own stress. If you use this format for every virtual meeting that you do, it will help you contain your own stress. So I'm going to come back on here. Now, let me know if you have any particular issues that are causing you stress. And you can put those, you can put that in the chat room, or I'm not sure how many people we have on here, or you can ask me directly. We might have too many people for that. Oh, we do have chat. Good. Any particular issues that are causing you stress? Okay, I'm going to just keep going then. Oh, yes, everyone. Okay. What is a particular issue? Okay. If you can't think of one, let me just share some focus tools. Candace, can you give me that next slide? Okay. And yes, okay. So here's some focus tools that may be useful for you. Keep your meetings very short and concise. That will kind of force people to, it's not that long, they can't just camp out with no screen. Shorten your meetings so they have to be present. You can, if it's a really small group, tell them they can't use the stop video thing. Segmenting is a really important one that I want to share, and that is that all of our days are divided into segments of time or task. So if at the beginning of each segment of time or task, you identify one thing and one thing only that you want to achieve or solve or something during that one segment of time that you want to focus on, identify that even if you need to write it down. In fact, it's a good thing to do at first till you get the hang of it. Just write down one thing you want from this segment of time, only one. Then you focus just on that for that segment of time, even if it's whether it's 5 minutes or 2 hours, doesn't matter. Could be 1 minute. Segment your day into small sections and decide what you want, one thing for each segment. Then when you're finished with that, go to the next segment, one thing. Finish that, next segment, one thing. You will find that you will accomplish way more in a day with much less stress. Is there a question here? How do you track what your team is doing while all working remotely, but not to appear as micromanaging? You could have methods of checking in. There are project management systems. Trello comes to mind. It's only one of many that I'm familiar with, but Trello is a way to project manage things where you can see at a glance what everyone else is doing or has accomplished. So I would suggest getting some kind of platform that everybody can see what everyone is doing. Okay, and then hold virtual meetings more often as a regular habit. So you outline, so maybe it's every day on Wednesday at 9 o'clock, we have a 15-minute meeting or a 30-minute meeting. That way you have a plan. It's all based on the plan, because you cannot control what people are doing remotely. You might even discuss having flexible schedules. Who actually needs to be at their desk from 9 to 5? Maybe none of you. But really think that through and have a plan. Then you'll know how to spot check people or create a project management system where everybody can check in.
My staff has to leave their work on my desk. I have to check their work anyway. Okay, why do they have to leave it on your desk? Also, I've seen daily 15. Yes, that can work. Daily check-ins for 10 to 15, minute calls can work, absolutely. And that's a good idea. As a matter of fact, individual telephone calls are often more personal and more effective than group calls because people can feel more special. And you might get to know people much more deeply than you have before. We have to make sure deadlines are still being met. Absolutely. Absolutely. Applications, 2 minutes. Okay, gotcha. Okay. Absolutely. The work has to still get done. And if you're doing things for the public, absolutely, deadlines are happening. Applications are coming in. I would suggest you hold a meeting, suggest the importance of double checking your work. If it's a skill deficit, if errors are occurring because they haven't been trained well, that's a little bit of a different issue. I would call that a training issue. Now is the time to go back to basics, make people know, make sure everyone is very clear about the purpose of their job and exactly what they are expected to deliver, so that they can focus narrowly on just those things that they're essential to their job, and make sure they're very clear about that. And if that takes some personal training on your part and some screen time training them personally, so be it. It'll be time well spent. Okay, I am, for the moment, keep checking in with that chat room. If there are additional questions, please let me know. I'm going to keep going here for a minute. So segmenting is one tool to decrease stress, because what happens when you're under stress is that your mind amplifies things. It makes things really big, and then it feels like a huge burden on us. So the idea with segmenting is to narrow down the focus so my mind can handle it and focus on one thing at a time throughout my day. You'll be amazed how productive you are with that, whether it's in your personal life or your work life. The mind map is basically focusing on 3 things. When you convey things to your team, this is a mind map. Thank you, Candace. This is a mind map. And it basically, you can use it for anything. You can use it at home for the family to say, okay, this weekend, we're going to accomplish these 3 things. And Sally, I want you to do this, I'll do this, and Dad will do this. Or you can use it for your work teams. So the key is to keep things as simple as possible, and don't give people more than 3 things at a time, because people can't handle that many at the time. I'm going to check the chat room one more time. Thank you. 2 in the morning. Okay. Any additional questions that you have of me? If they occur to you later, please let Kristen know. Please let the team know, or you can email me directly. Look over some of your notes from the leadership things. Now is the time that leaders are so critical, and you can really, forge a great team during times of crisis because they will rely on each other more. So nurture those relationships. Those are key right now. Make sure that you have strategies for your own stress so that it doesn't bleed out to your team. And if we can be a resource for you, please reach out. We very much want to be of help to you. I appreciate your coming today. Kristen, do you have any closing thoughts?
Sort of yes, and if I may, I've been chatting with Tara Johnson, who I think has a question of, and it may be causing stress because her business is real estate, mortgages, this kind of thing. And so it's very, how can I find new ways to reach out to my clients that is effective and meaningful?
Okay.
And I think it transcends beyond just the industry that Tara's in.
Absolutely it does. I'm suggesting to people right now, because I talk with a lot of small business owners, kind of the same thing, you know, how do I keep in touch with people? People aren't buying a lot right now unless it's essentials. So it's a difficult time to be selling a product of any kind, to be honest. But it's a perfect time to step back and do the important but not urgent things in your business or your profession. So now is the time to get your promotional materials together, to get your contact lists where you want it. Look at some of the options for reaching out to people. You know, do you want to send, you know, a paper thing? Email gets so crowded, that gets lost in the shuffle very often. People are on the internet so much, they're tired of being on screens all day. It's kind of refreshing to get a postcard in the mail or something. Focus on things other than the sale, which sounds a little crazy, but now is the time where relationships are critical. So nurture relationships. So any clients, reach out to them. How are you doing? I'm here to help. Share a resource. If you learn something about how to maintain your health when you're staying at home, or how to keep exercising when you can't go to an exercise class, anything you run across that you think might be of general interest, or you know enough about your clients to target, you know their interests, and you find an article, send it to them. Now is the perfect time, because it just shows them that you're thinking about them. It doesn't have to be related to what you are selling, because believe me, people buy because of relationships. Certainly, you know, okay, so here, how can I find new ways to reach out to clients that is effective and meaningful? Relationship building is absolutely key right now. Rates are low. Yes, I agree with you. People are still buying homes, but keeping in contact with others is very key right now. So don't rely just on the internet or email. Pick up the phone. That's a rare, people don't do that much anymore. And so it's kind of surprising and very special. When you call someone, it shows you've really been thinking about them. If you get an answering machine, that's okay. Have a little message that you've printed out ahead of time that you can speak into the phone that shows them that you're thinking about them. And maybe you recently saw a house that you think might be perfect for them. So anything you can think of to reach out to clients, potential clients, now is the time to do it. Buff up your promotional materials or purge old files. I've been doing that. Oh my. But the truth is, it really does free up energy when you purge and get rid of things and clean things. I used to think you had to move to clean your garage. Well, it turns out you don't. So now is a perfect time for things like that, because the more orderly you feel, the more clear your energy will be, and the more that translates out. Keep a very hopeful attitude. Envision what your business will look like in 6 months or 3 months, and imagine it really good. And here's a little coaching tip. Write it down. Write down what you want, or create a vision board. I have a vision board I often have to update because it has everything I wanted in there, and you'll be amazed how those things begin to appear in your life. It's not really magic, but that's a different talk. What else? Anything else? We have a couple of minutes here.
All right. Well, Linda, I want to very much say thank you for sharing your tips and information with our group. We, on your virtual screen, there's a reaction that you can either do a thumbs up or applause. So
Wow.
having to do that virtually. But I do want to share with the group, I hope that this has been a helpful way to connect. We actually have more than, we have additional time reserved on Zoom if you want to stay on the phone and on the call, on the conference, and just, connect with each other. That's certainly an option. We'd like to know if you would like to do this again. So that would be some interesting feedback for us. And we do have a May 19th venue date reserved for what may be our final session. However, that all remains to be seen. But as soon as we are able to confirm a meeting date with you, so that we could get this year kind of wrapped up, we will certainly do that. We do think that it would be more successful in person rather than virtually. If the timeline goes out too far, we may change that thought as well. Everything's really pretty fluid, and I'm just so grateful that you're willing to be patient with us and to stay engaged. We'll come up with some kind of other additional topics, based somewhat on your poll, or you can send us ideas about something that you might find helpful in that, leadership skill set toolbox. And we've got a number of alumni and other people that we might bring into conversations to help you. And I see some good chatting going on, so thank you. And again, you're welcome to stay on. It's 12:59, so I have literally just a minute of this, but anybody that wants to stay on for another 5 or 10 minutes, we can absolutely do that. And I want to say thank you to Kristen Klein and to Candace Barton for working behind the scenes, setting this all up, and Kristen created the polls and Candace is managing the PowerPoint. So we're all learning to do this as a virtual team as well. So thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thanks. Yeah, so if anybody just wants to chat, you're welcome to unmute yourself. What I don't see in my toolbar is the place where you can raise your hand to speak. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah. I don't either.
So does anyone else see that
I don't.
option?
I don't.
No?
I do
Maybe we set it up differently this time. That could be.
Don't see it.
And I think we can pause recording or stop recording.
Sure, I was getting ready to announce that.
Okay, thank you.